Alright, so today I'm going to try and install a double DIN Android radio in my Jeep WJ. This is a 2004 Grand Cherokee Overland, commonly known as a WJ. Should be very similar for any 99 through 2004 because that's all the WJ model years. So the WJ does not come with a double DIN radio. I don't know what this size is. It looks bigger than single DIN but smaller than double DIN. But I need to get that one out, and then gonna see if I can get this double DIN radio put in there. So the radio I am using today is this ATOTO A6. It's a radio I bought off of Amazon. Seems to have fairly good reviews as far as Amazon radio goes. But this is a universal radio, so it's not specific to the WJ. So it comes with universal harnesses, and then you have to wire it in yourself. So to make my job a little bit easier, I got this adapter kit off Amazon, which includes a faceplate, wiring harness, and some brackets for the WJ. So that should hopefully make it a little easier to get this thing put in the WJ. So first thing I got to do though is get the old radio out, which is fairly simple. This faceplate is held on with a couple clips on the top, and then there's a couple more clips behind it that, from what I understand, these vents will come out as well with it. There we go. Okay. Alright, now that I got that panel off, you can see the radio there, and it's held in. I don't know if you can see back there, but there's 4 screws. There's 2 on this side and 2 over on this side. So I'm going to get those out. Alright, so now that we got those screws out, the radio should just pull out. There we go. Okay. Couple connectors on the back. Antenna. Okay, and that's it. Stock radio's out. So the primary connector is this one. I think this one, I'm not 100% sure, but that might be the CD changer controls, and I don't remember what this one is. That's the antenna right there. So for the wiring diagram on this and the pinouts on this connector, you can go to wjbible.com, and they have a whole bunch of awesome information about WJs, including all the pinouts for this connector. So I'll put a link down in the description to that, and that's what I'm going to use to figure out where to plug things in. But before I go too much further, I'm going to go and put crimp-on connectors on the end of all of these and the end of the other wiring harness, so it'll make it easier for me to figure out, which ones go where, because most of the colors I think probably will line up, but I don't know if all of them will. And so I'm just going to put little quick connects on here so that I can plug them in easy enough. And also then if I want to use the wiring harness for a different radio in the future, it's easier for me to just unplug that. So I'm going to go ahead and get my little crimp-on quick connects on these, and then we'll come back out here and figure out what's next. Alright, so I got all those connectors put onto the end. You notice there's a few on here that I didn't do. It's because some of these I'm not going to use, like this one is power antenna, and I don't have a power antenna. Rear camera, yeah, I don't have a rear camera. Maybe this radio does support a rear camera, so maybe I'll put one on at a later time, but I don't have one right now, so I just left that. And then there's a couple here for steering wheel controls, and those I am going to try and hook up, but they don't actually go through this harness, and so we'll get to that in a little bit, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. The other thing with this radio, the other thing you need is, this is your main harness, right? But then you need this other secondary harness as well. This has got all kinds of like RCA things for subwoofer out, video input, and all kinds of things. Oh, external mic input, might need that. Left channel auxiliary input, I don't know. A bunch of things that I probably won't be using, but there is one thing I'll be using, and that's this blue wire. This is a very important blue wire. And this one right here, I don't know if you can see it, it says right there, says amplifier turn on. And we absolutely need that, because if you don't have that, the amp that's under the back seat back there won't get a signal to turn on, and apparently you won't get any sound out of the speakers. So this harness, this other harness, you definitely need at least that one extra wire, and so that's why I got that connector on there as well. And so then I went through the wiring diagram that I got from wjbible.com. Once again, I'll put the link down below for that. Super helpful site for anything WJ related. But anyway, they got a picture on there of the wiring diagram for this harness. And I was right, they also have one for this. That's the CD changer, which I'm not going to be hooking up. I forgot to look up what this other one was. I don't know what that is. Anyway, I went through that, and based on the information on there, I wrote labels on all my little connectors to tell me what these are, so that when I hook them up, like there's my right rear, there's my mute, I don't know if that's going to be used, but there's ground, power, etc. So all of these I should be able to just match up the labels on here to what's on these. It looks like a lot of the colors are going to line up, but I didn't know for sure, so that's why I labeled them all. Okay, that's most everything. I gotta redo that wire, so I'm gonna go put a new crimp on that side. There's a couple extras here. It looks like there's two power constant, which is this yellow and this black. So that's important. If you don't use this one, make sure it's not gonna hit anything. It should be fine with this socket thing on here. I might wrap it in tape anyway. And then this is an extra ground. And then yeah, there's that mute, and that's about it that it looks like we're not using. And then like I mentioned before, there's a few on here for power antenna and steering wheel controls, which we won't be using the power antenna, but I will be trying to hook up the steering wheel controls in a little bit. Once I get the radio in and working, then I'll figure that out. Alright, got all my wires hooked up now, I think, that I need. So now let's see what happens if I try and plug this thing in. This radio comes with a whole bunch of other connectors too. That's an external mic. Not sure what these are. Line out converter. I don't know if you're using RCA outputs for some reason, for like your speakers, I guess. A couple USB ports and some mounting brackets. Anyway, there we go. Here's the radio itself. So this radio is actually pretty low profile. It is a double DIN radio, and it's got physical buttons across the bottom, which is kind of interesting. But as far as how thick it is, it's actually pretty thin. So that's good, because then there should be space for this big mess of wires to go in there behind it. I'm not sure if I have to cut some stuff here or not. Yeah, I may need to trim some of this to get it to fit. I'm not sure. I'll have to figure that out when it goes in and see where it sits. It might sit forward enough that I don't need to. Let me see, I can put my vents back in because I separated them from the panel. The vents are attached to the back of this panel. They're like glued or melted on. So I undid that by drilling it out. And so now I can put the vents back in without the panel. I may want to put Monta glue on the other panel depending on how it works, but maybe not. Those might be good enough. Anyway, for now though, I just want to see how this is going to fit. Yeah, it's going to be tight. I think I'm going to need to trim some plastic, but I'm going to see if I can get this thing hooked up and power on first, and then we'll worry about fitting it into the dash. Because I know it'll fit, you just got to do a little modification because this was not designed for this originally. Alright, so we got a number of connectors on the back here. The main connector, put right in there. And then this extra connector, which I need for my amp on and stuff, I believe goes right up here. It's the only one it'll fit on. So antenna. So this adapter kit I got comes with an antenna pigtail as well, because the WJ uses a weird antenna plug. This right here. There you go. So this should plug into there. There you go. And then the antenna will then hook into the back of the radio. Right there, just like that. Okay, so now I should be able to hook up this plug and turn this on and see if it works. Okay, that goes on one way, just like that. Okay, let's see what happens. Well, I do have power, so that's a good first step. Okay. Hey, there we go. Okay, let's see what we can find. Alright, so I figured out why I wasn't getting any sound out of it. So in the settings, if you go into home, go to settings, device, sound, there's a setting in here for amplifier turn on. And there we go. So I don't know why that's set off by default, but yeah, there's a setting in there. You got to have that little slider on for it to actually turn the amplifier on. So, all right, now that I got it working, I'm going to work on trying to get it mounted. It comes with a bunch of brackets. There's these brackets, which I think go onto the side of the radio, and then there's these other rails, which somehow end up going into here. Not sure. I'm probably going to have to modify something because it looks like there's not enough clearance along the top here. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do there, because I need to leave that right there is where the faceplate clips in. So I need to make sure not to mess that up. But I'm not sure. I might need to trim out some of this plastic here or something. I'm going to have to figure that out. So I'm going to attach these side panels to the radio. They go on kind of something like that. I'm going to attach the side panels on, and then I can figure out how much space I need to make. Alright, I almost got it into the dash. Let me show you what I got going on. So I had to trim a whole bunch of stuff. So up in the dash, I had to make some notches right up here. I don't know how well you can see that, but right there and right up there, so that the rails would fit in properly. I notched a little bit out here so it had more clearance in the center. Not sure if that was necessary or not, but I did it. And then the other thing I've been doing is I've been trying to get the radio, figuring out how to go in, and so this faceplate that comes with it comes with brackets that mount the radio to the back of the faceplate. So that's what these plastic brackets are right here that I have on there. And so I got those on right now. I'm not sure if I'm going to use those or if I'm going to get the radio directly onto these spots. Haven't figured that out yet. But for now, I'm using it with these brackets just so I can line it up on the faceplate and get everything right. The other thing I had to do, you see these metal brackets here? These came with the radio, but I had to trim off a piece of the bottom. They used to stick out similar to how it is on the top, and you can see on the top it's sticking over the plastic bracket, and on the bottom it's not. And the reason I did that is because there's clearance issues down here as well at the bottom on this piece. And sure, I could have taken some of this out because the vents are a separate piece underneath that, but that seems like it would have been hard, and if I can just get it to clear without taking that out, then that's what I'm trying to do. So what I'm working on right now is trying to figure out is how the vents attach. And you can see there's all these little holes and what looks like screw holes. They didn't give me any screws, which is interesting. But there's these posts, and so the vent kind of slips on over those. I had to drill those holes out to get it lined up just right, because on the stock one, they were all just glued on. And I just drilled the glue and then it came undone. But on this one, I need to make it line up with those little post holes. And so that's what I've been doing, and I've got it more or less in there so it'll stay on. But here's the next problem. This right here can't be there. This piece right here, that's part of the vent right there,
the radio sits right in there, and there's no clearance on the bottom of the radio, you see. It goes all the way to the bottom, and this little lip right here is where it sits in that frame. So I need to clearance this right here, the top of that vent piece right there, so that it will fit in the frame. So that's what I'm going to do, and keep working on it and see where I get. Alright, I think I got it so it'll all fit now. Let me show you what I got. So I had to trim a pretty significant portion off the top of the vents. Here, let me take it out so you can see. So now you can see, here's what I had to trim off the top of the vent. There was like a double plastic right here, so I think I'm still good. It just, you know, there's still inner plastic there that's making the top of the vent. I just basically trimmed off the outer casing off the top. And the reason for that is so the frame, the front frame of the radio will sit like right in there. So it's all super snug. And so that goes on these little pegs, pushes in there. It's all very tight. There we go. And that sits in there just like that. So you can see it's very close all along the back. There's the little bit that I trimmed again. So now the radio goes in there. Let me put that in and I'll show you how that looks. And I don't know if you can see or not, but the corner of this bracket actually sits right on the bracket for the vent, and so that'll hold that in there once it's all screwed together. There we go. Okay, put the screws in for that. Alright, so with everything in, that's how it looks. You can see it lines up pretty well. There's a small gap above there because the faceplate is curved and the radio is flat, but once it's in the dash you won't even notice that. But yeah, there's how it looks all in. Can't even tell that there was any trimmed off the vents there, but it's all really tight on the back here. So that's why I had to trim that. Oh, and the other thing I had to do was I had to trim away a little bit more of these plastic rails as well because they were getting in the way. So I trimmed those back so that they're shorter as well. Alright, so now that it's all in the frame, this thing has 4 clips. Well, it has 2. It has 2 up on the top, and then there's 2 on the vents. And like I said, that vent thing is held in there under the bracket, so it's in there good and sturdy. And anyway, the whole thing just slides right in and then pops in. I'm not going to push the clips in right now because I still need to hook the wires up. I pulled them out when I was working on all the cutting, so I got to hook all the wires up. But before I do that, I think it's time to work on the steering wheel controls. And first of all, shout out to Najar Offroad. If you haven't seen his channel, he's got a whole bunch of good WJ stuff, but that's how I found the information. I found a video on his channel, I'll put the link for that down below, about hooking up the steering wheel controls on the WJ. And from what I understand from his video, is there's a wire under the steering column that you need to tap into. And there's just a single wire that controls all the steering wheel controls on the back of the wheel. It does this by varying the resistance in that wire, apparently. And so all you have to do is hook that wire up to one of the steering wheel inputs on the radio, which is one of these, this one right here, the one that I didn't connect to anything yet. And so in order to get to that wire, I got to take the plastic off of the steering column, and then it's down here on the bottom of the steering column. So I'm going to take the plastic off now and figure out which wire I'm supposed to get to. Alright, so if I remember correctly, the yellow is the airbag and this is your other stuff. So this is your clock spring right here. So you don't want to mess with the airbag one. So I'm pretty sure
It's the red with the yellow stripe, which is this one right here. I'm going to look that up real quick just to make absolutely sure, and then I'll be back. Alright, so I looked it up, and yep, the wire I want to cut is the red with the yellow stripe under the column. But before I do that, I'm going to run a wire up from through here, through the dash, down there, and get everything all ready. Alright, so I got that wire run down to here. I'm going to put a butt connector on it because I'm just going to cut into this and crimp it onto there. You could try and do like a tap or whatever, but I figure if I ever want to put the stock controls back in, I can just splice that wire back together. So I'm just going to cut into it and splice into it. Alright, so back here under the steering column, right here's the wire I want. This red with a yellow stripe. So I'm just going to cut it right here, which will give me enough left over on the plug if I ever want to connect it back there, and enough here to work with right now. Okay. Alright, now up here, I'm just going to give myself enough room to work with. And then I'm just going to put one of these quick connects on that too, so that I can unplug it easily, or want to mess with anything in the dash. Alright, now I just need to plug the radio in and see if it works. Let's see, steering wheel control setup. Press and hold a button on steering wheel to start learning matching. So if I want volume up, okay, so that didn't work. Alright, so the first time I did this, I hooked it up wrong. User error, which if you think about it is obvious. So I had it hooked up to this side, which is not what I want to do because this is the clock spring, this is where the signals are coming from. So I actually need to hook up to this side. So I need to splice that into there. This just goes back to wherever the radio old controls are, which is not what I want. I want the signal from the buttons on the steering wheel, which comes through the clock spring right here, connected to that. So let me hook that up to the right side and see if I get better results. Alright, let's try that again. Hey, there we go. Now it's responding when I press up. It actually sees something. So you hold it down and you press what you want. There we go, look at that. I got volume control. Okay, that would be play and pause. Sweet. Alright, it looks like things are working. I just got to figure out what I want to use these buttons for and get everything buttoned up and put back in there. I just need to get my column back on, but as far as this, I think I'm ready to push this in. So all I got to do is push that in right there and it's installed. There you go. So here, I'll show you the final product here. There's how it looks. My dash is kind of dirty. There's a little bit of a gap at the top right there between the trim and this thing. I don't know if that's because my trim here is warped or if this is just slightly smaller than the stock one, but it doesn't really bother me that much. All in all, it seems like it fits in there real nice. That looks really good. I'm pretty happy with how that's how that turned out. It's definitely not plug and play. There was a lot of cutting and fitting and trimming and refitting and cutting and trimming, but all in all, I think that'll work out really good. It'll work for what I wanted it for, was primarily so I can have a navigation system in dash to display OnX when I'm going off-road. So I think it'll do that pretty well, and hope it was helpful. Thanks for watching.